Hello, my lovelies, and thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Listen Closely. I am your host, Bobbi, and we're going to kick off this holiday season with some holiday true crime, mythical creatures, and all kinds of good stuff. So if you have not already, make sure you're following me on all my social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm basically anywhere you can find me. I do not have a Twitter. I think that's just full of drama. But Facebook and Instagram, I'm at HTT Listen Closely. You can also email me httlistenclosely@gmail.com. Just email me or message me. Tell me about all the things you might want to hear on that show. I will look into anything and everything that y'all suggest. I'm still looking into some stuff and trying to gather some information. But yeah, definitely reach out to me. For those that don't know, Facebook actually just recently added a podcast tab where you can actually listen to the podcast on Facebook. And no, you don't have to keep Facebook up. It's just like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything else, where you can close or lock your phone and it still plays. So that's pretty awesome, and I think that helps out so many people who just don't know about the different streaming providers. Like, I did not know or really get into Apple Podcast or any of that until I started actually making my own podcast and I started to dig into them. So I think that actually helps out a lot of people, and I'm super excited for that. So if you are listening on to Facebook, you can leave comments and different things. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave me 5 stars, leave me a review. And if you're anywhere else, if they allow it, I don't know of too many other platforms, but yeah, leave reviews, leave me comments, message me, let me know how I'm doing. Without further ado, though, let's get into our first episode, which is, of course, the one and only Krampus. Of course, I started with him because he is just, the anti Santa. Or, actually, to be more correct, he is the counterpart to St. Nicholas. So, if you haven't seen the Krampus movie, first off, what are you doing? Because you need to see that. My husband somehow has not seen it, and he will be watching it this year. It is like my absolute favorite movie, especially for the holiday season, because I am not the Hallmark Christmas movie type person. That's just not me. If you haven't guessed that already with the podcast I do. So Krampus is right up my alley, and John will be watching it very soon. So definitely watch that. If you haven't, though, and you don't know what Krampus is, because he is getting more and more into pop culture, but for those that don't know, he has, horns, like, 2 little kind of devilish horns. He has darker fur. He has long fangs and a long, sometimes serpent-like tongue. So you're already starting to think of, okay, he's basically like the devil. You know how they describe him, and they had, devil has hooves and stuff, which some Krampuses have hooves and others don't. It's just kind of like how he's being portrayed, because he does wear like a long coat, just like a Santa coat. So some depictions you don't really see his feet per se. But yeah, he is literally the counterpart of St. Nicholas, like St. Nick, as in Santa, but like the St. Nick, St. Nicholas type of Santa. So, it's along the same lines of good versus evil, the saint versus the devil, kind of along that same lines. Krampus is often depicted with chains, bells along on those chains, a sack to which he actually kidnaps children and stuffs them in, and sticks that he actually uses to whip bad children. Yes, so he is the very, like, you don't want to mess around with this guy. You don't want to be a bad child. It's not so much, hey, if you're bad, you're going to get coal. It's, hey, if you're bad, you're going to get whipped with birch sticks and then stuffed into a sack and taken away to the underworld, aka his lair, which, underworld hell, you know what I'm saying? Not a good time to be a naughty kid. So he actually originated in the European countries, more specifically like the Germany, Austria origin. I couldn't get a specific like where he came from or what time period he came from. It seems like he kind of started coming up around the 17th century, but like there's not really a like specific time that he actually appeared. Some German regions actually have different names for him, and I do apologize if I butcher these names, but I'm going to try my best. Some German regions have him named as Belsnickel, and others have Necht Ruprecht. And those are basically black bearded men who carry switches to beat children. So, I mean, I don't know what they're doing over there to where, like, the children have to be beat. Like, they must be some bad children. Or they just really want to scare the child, because if you think you're going to get beat with a birch stick or, any kind of whip, that would be enough to make me good. So maybe they're actually onto something over there. I don't know. And then in France, they actually have Hans Trapp and Pierre Foutard. And I know I butchered that. I will be posting these names on my social media so that way you can actually see them for yourself, because I know that I did not get it right. It's just German, French, it's not in my forte of things to say. But Krampus, the word Krampus and the name Krampus actually derives from the German Krampen, which means claws, which it makes kind of sense. I mean, first off, he's a pretty scary guy with probably claws. I mean, none of the descriptions I saw really had, like, his hands per se mentioned. But if you look at the pictures of Krampus, he does typically have long fingernails or claws. And then also, if you just think about Santa Claus, Krampus has claws, Krampen, like, it kind of falls along that same lines to me. I don't know, I'm just saying. And Krampus is also said to be the son of Hel, Hel, in Norse mythology. So that's just some really cool overall of who this guy is. And so far, he is not a good guy. And to get a little bit more onto it, I mean, I know I'm a couple days late on it, but he actually shows up on December 5th. So they start their, more holiday season early December. So December 5th is known as Krampusnacht, which means Krampus night, where if you're bad, guess what? This, like, almost boogeyman devil guy is going to come, he's going to whip you, he's going to take you in his sack and take you to his lair. Like, it is not a good night. And honestly, I was a pretty bad child. I mean, I wasn't terrible growing up, but I also was nowhere near a saint. Like, out of me and my sister, I was the bad child. And if my parents would have told me about this guy, I probably would have been a little bit, just a tad bit better, especially around this season. Because I'm not going to lie, I was a brat. When they threatened me with coal, I was like, okay, well, if I build up enough coal, I can then make a barbecue. Like, that's not a threat to me. Plus, I knew I was going to end up getting good stuff anyways because I was spoiled rotten. But if they had told me about Krampus and him coming to probably beat me, I would have probably been just a tiny bit better during the holiday season. So yeah, he comes on December 5th, known as Krampusnacht, and on December 6th is Nikolastag, and that is St. Nick's Day, where the children actually, so what they do is they leave shoes out on December 5th for St. Nicholas to then come and fill their shoes with presents if they were good, or rods if they were bad. So, like, you didn't get coal or anything, like, you got rods. And basically that means you're about to get whipped. I mean, that's what I take it as. As if I just, open my door to find my shoes with a rod in it, I'm basically thinking I'm screwed. You know what I mean? And like I said, me as a child, I probably would have been one of those screwed ones. And one of the cool things that the Europeans actually do, and I kind of want to go 1 year. I don't fly. I hate flying. I've done it once, never again. Like, I always tell my husband, you have to drug me in order for me to get back on a plane. Like, knock me out. But one day, I want to go to this, and it's called, again, I'm going to butcher it, but it's called Krampuslauf, which is literally meaning Krampus Run. And that's where drunken men of the area dress as devils or Krampus, and they take over the streets chasing people and lightly whipping them. I mean, obviously they don't go around beating people, because even in Europe that's not okay. So they don't go beating people, but they kind of go around chasing people, just having a good time. And, I'm sure they kind of, get in their faces a little bit, just like a scary thing, like, wow. I mean, I don't know how else to describe that other than they just kind of jump scare and come up to the little kids and probably tell them, hey, I'm going to whip you because you've been bad or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. And they just, go through the streets of the town and have that. And again, because of pop culture, America is actually starting to embrace Krampus. Partly due to the bah humbug attitude. Like I said, I have it this year. Like, I'm just so over the holidays, and it honestly just started. But I was kind of over the holidays like back in June. Like, I knew they were coming, and I was like, ugh, I really don't want to deal with holidays. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is about this year. I don't know if it was because, COVID happened last year, so we kind of got to glaze over them, and, in a blink of an eye, they're back, and it's like, oh, really? I don't really know. But this year especially, I am very bah humbug, and due to that kind of an attitude, America's starting to embrace Krampus. Like, because of that, the movies, the TV shows, everything. Like I said, that movie Krampus that came out, and there's actually a couple of them, but that's like the more mainstream Krampus one that came out. And then, of course, we actually are starting to get like local Krampusnachts. There's one in New Orleans. That is the absolute closest one. And I think there's one in like New York. But New Orleans actually has it. And I saw it the weekend that it happened. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go. And then I thought about it. And that was actually the Christmas parade. So it was this past weekend. And I just, of course, couldn't go because I was in the parade, which is why this episode is so late. So thank you for, hanging in there and waiting for this episode. But yeah, like, I saw that way too late. But you better believe next year, I'm going. Like, I will find a way. I don't know how, because again, it'll end up being the same exact Christmas parade. But somehow, some way, I'm going. But yeah, New Orleans is the closest one. I think there's one in New York. And there might be some other ones. I don't really know. But I want to see that. Like, I think that is so cool that we are starting to embrace these traditions of other lands. I mean, as we all know, America is the melting pot. Like, we embrace cultures from all over, and the fact that we're starting to embrace Krampus is one of the coolest things to me because, again, I am not like, the biggest Christmas person. Don't get me wrong. I love Christmas. I love everything about Christmas and the reason we celebrate. But I am more Halloween. Like, I can go all out for Halloween, and then my husband actually is the one that goes all out for Christmas. Like, he is the Clark Griswold of the house. And I'm just, like, I like Christmas. I love it. I know the reason for the season. Don't get me wrong. And I go to midnight mass every year, but it's just not one of my top holidays. I mean, in all honesty, it's like Halloween and then everybody else. It's just one of those things. But now that Krampus is starting to come around, I'm like, okay, wait, I can kind of get into this a little bit more. So while America is embracing Krampus, Austria is starting to have a little, well, not really fight, but they're starting to get mixed feelings because Austria is actually starting to commercialize them a little bit, and some say a little bit too much. They're actually starting to sell chocolates, figurines, and even collectible horns of Krampus, and they're just commercializing it. They're taking advantage. They have postcards with him on them, and they're just trying to make a buck or two. But some are saying, well, now you're commercializing him, now he's not going to be as effective as before. And we kind of see that all the time with holidays. Mother's Day at the very, very early stages was a beautiful holiday. It meant well, but then it's gotten so commercialized. Even Valentine's Day. I mean, so many of these have gotten so commercialized that you forgot the real reason and, things that, like, why it happens. So Krampus, they're kind of saying it's getting a little too much. Like, you're starting to make him a little bit too friendly, too, everywhere. Like, everybody's just starting to get used to him. And if you kind of think about it, Krampus is basically like kind of like their Elf on the Shelf version, but a little bit more scary. Like, when I was reading all this, and I was just like, America has like this new Elf on the Shelf thing, which is supposedly supposed to make kids behave a little bit more. And when I was growing up, we didn't have that. It was basically You're good, you get presents. You're bad, you get coal. And if we would have had Elf on the Shelf, I probably would not have changed. Or honestly, it might have been a little bit worse because coal I can make barbecue with, but the elf is it's an elf. I don't know. That's just my kind of thinking behind it all. I mean, I know when you're kids, you're more susceptible to believing in these things, but if I wasn't scared of coal, I don't think I'd really be scared of an elf. But this Krampus guy, I'm telling you, if they'd have told me about Krampus when I was younger, like, I probably would have just a little bit better. I mean, again, Hispanics, our culture, we talk about La Llorona, who, if you're bad or, if you're just a child, she'll come and get you. We have the Kukui, which is the boogeyman. And if you're bad, he'll come and get you. So, like things that came and get me, I was scared to things coming and get me. So if they'd have told me, hey, be good if Krampus is coming to get you, I probably would have been a lot better. Again, during this season at least. I can't promise the whole year because I was just a very wild child. I was the second child. I was the youngest child. And, I could basically get away with things. So, and if you can ask my sister, she'll say the exact same thing. I got away with a lot of stuff, even being the bad one. And she was the quiet, reserved one. And I was not that. So, but I do think Krampus would have scared me just a tad, like, just enough to where I would have been a little bit better. But yeah, that is a very quick episode on Krampus. Very first week of December. Oh, he just had his Krampusnacht or Krampus night. And I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think Krampus would work with your kids, or does the Elf on the Shelf work? Or, if you were a child, would you be more willing to obey your parents with Krampus, Elf on the Shelf, or just the coal threat? Let me know. I definitely want to know what people think of this one. Or do you think that he's just a little too much and he takes away from the whole Christmas spirit? I have seen someone say that Krampus is just a little too much and you're forgetting the entire reason. I mean, let me know. Let me know what you think. Message me on my social medias at httlistenclosely. Email me, httlistenclosely@gmail.com. If you heard any kind of strange noises in the background, that is my animals. Of course, I do my recording here at the house, so you hear their bumps and small meows and, tussling. I do apologize. I am trying to work on getting some better equipment and somehow closing them off from the room so you won't hear that. But it is what it is, and, at least they're taken care of, I guess. So this one will be coming out on Wednesday instead of my normal time, and then you'll be getting another episode on Saturday, and then it'll be every Saturday after that. So, like, this is the only time that I'm doing, like, a weird Wednesday release because of that Christmas parade that just had me absolutely, like, just rushed. I completely forgot to even record an episode. So when you hear this one, it will be on Wednesday, and then we'll go back to our regular schedule. Thank you for being patient with me and for working with me and understanding. And I hope if you saw me at the Christmas parade that you enjoyed the decorations. I'm still looking for pictures for that. If you didn't, I will post pictures that I do have. I do have a few that I grabbed from some friends. And yeah, I had a blast and I can't wait for next year. But at the same time, I want to go do this Krampus night in New Orleans. So we'll see how I juggle both. But until next time, always remember to listen closely.